That's it. Go ahead. Let's check out this hotspot clip, and we'll go ahead and get into this report.
A damning report put together by an independent UN commission to investigate the crimes of Israel that they've committed in Gaza since October 7th has somehow made Israel look more evil than we already know them to be. The report was put together by the Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestinian Territory. Their goal in this particular report was to investigate potential human rights violations and war crimes potentially committed by both Israel and Palestinian, specifically Hamas militants. Their conclusion? The report concluded that Israel has been conducting a campaign of extermination against the Palestinian people. Yeah, you heard me correctly. This report concludes that Israel has graduated from genocide and has moved on to outright extermination. Now, you know a Zionist is going to be out there in my comment section somewhere saying, nah, they being hyperbolic. All right, let's look at the facts. First of all, it's important to note that the information I'm about to give you isn't even the full scope of the crimes committed by Israel, because the commission mostly focused on October 7th from December 31st, and we all know shit has gotten way worse since December. The report also says that even though we know there's a lot of traits that we could point to point out the uniqueness of the destruction being wreaked by Israel, the main one is the fact that 1.7 million Palestinians out of the 2 million living in Gaza have been displaced by this onslaught. They also point out that between 2005 and 2023, all of the fatalities from all the conflicts between Palestine and Israel only equal to 1/10 of the total fatalities that have taken place since October 7th. And somehow Israel has also managed to increase the rate in which they specifically kill women and children in this conflict as compared to other conflicts in the past. They concluded that Israel even adjusted its targeting approach since October 7th. For example, on October 10th, an ISF spokesperson said that this situation we're in now, we even need to use different language and terminology. That same spokesperson said if there's even an inkling of intelligence, they attack. Israel's defense minister said, Gaza will never be the same. All restraints are off. We use everything. These statements obviously indicate that these leaders were more preoccupied with destroying Gaza rather than retaliating against Hamas or retrieving their hostages. Furthermore, despite the proportion of Hamas militants in a given area, allegedly, compared to the civilian population, and given the language use of Israel, like saying things like, they are embedded, human shields, etc., etc. The commission concluded that this language was intentional, and it was used to give the ISF blanket authorization to target civilian locations widely and indiscriminately. The commission also found out that the Israeli government actually participated in violence against territories and Palestinian communities, specifically in the West Bank, where they killed 500 Palestinians since October 7th. Now, that might sound a little bit strange to you because we've been told that this is all about getting the hostages back and getting Hamas. And there is no Hamas in the West Bank. And the hostages are not there. So why is the Israeli government using October 7th to justify killing 500 Palestinians in a place that had nothing to do with Hamas, the hostages, or October 7th? So to be clear, when the UN chose to address Israel's actions as extermination, it wasn't hyperbole. It's extermination to such an extent that they ended up killing people in the West Bank that had nothing to do with the conflict in Gaza. And of course, this commission said that Israel was making their grandest attempt to block them from investigating the situation, which I find ironic because I distinctly remember Israel trying to bring every single influential and powerful Zionist they could find to come look at the proof of the crimes committed by Hamas on October 7th to justify the extermination that Israel is now participating in. But when it was time for them to get investigated, all of a sudden, no, I gotta go away, turn the cameras off. Really, bro? If Israel truly felt justified and that they weren't committing war crimes, they wouldn't be trying so hard to hide the crimes that they're committing. But this independent report found that Israel is responsible for war crimes of murder, intentionally directing attacks against civilians, sexual violence, starvation, and many other crimes against humanity. So I guess if I was trying to justify genocide by playing victim and calling the other side barbaric, I guess I wouldn't want anybody to investigate me either if they're going to find out I'm actually guilty of everything I'm accusing my adversary of doing, like Israel is doing right now. But that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, man. That report was heavy. Like I said in the video, everything. So even though they mentioned some of the things that have taken place since, like just raw data that's taken place since October 7th. Yeah, since October 7th, or in after December 31st. The data that they gathered and the fact finding that they did was actually limited mostly to the dates of October 7th and December 31st. In other words, the extent and the scope of the crimes that Israel has committed since October 7th isn't even fully reported on in this report from this independent investigative commission. Do y'all understand how crazy that is? Like, they're still saying there's 37,000 is the estimate, right, of the deaths. Really, guys? Y'all really? They've been saying 35,000 for 3 months now. They just waged massive campaigns in Rafah. They went back to northern Gaza recently, did another bombing campaign. Like the 37, bro, between bombs, starvation, you got the bombing, you got starvation, you got the denial of medical supplies, you got, I mean, bro, you can't tell me that you're going to stop at just the bombing and the shooting. You've already acknowledged, and I'm going to pull up this report for y'all, but you've already acknowledged that they've conducted siege warfare, and so nobody is starved since October 7th or since the siege started. You trying to tell me all these people have been displaced, but nobody is starved? All these people have been displaced, but no women have died from complications while giving birth? All these people have been replaced. Oh, excuse me. All these people have been displaced, but nobody's died from medical complications just generally. Asthma, diabetes, heart problems. Greg Walker, thank you for the tip on Rockfin. Niko, all I know is Biden is out on stage shaking hands with the ghost of Strom Thurmond. Oh my God. It's funny. But yeah, like the number is way more than 37,000. And I feel like we need to stop letting them try to limit, the 37,000 is horrendous. And guess what? It's not the right number. People are dying during surgery. Yeah, like we've seen the videos, we've seen that. Like, where are y'all getting 37,000 number from? So when you couple the fact that they're starving them to death, they're bombing them indiscriminately, they have, like the report says, they switched their language so that they could justify bombing civilians. That's why they use words like embedded. We believe that the Hamas soldiers are embedded. Like, it's an extermination. That's what they've concluded. That's what the UN said. And by the way, I can't stress this enough. This report tried to give Israel the benefit of the doubt. Oh, actually, let me see if I can actually pull up the report. I mean, I have it here, but it's a PDF or something like that. Let me look at it. Let me see if I can pull it up for y'all. Come on, StreamYard. Don't fail me now. Because I have an article talking about some of the details of it, but I want to show y'all just some of the stuff that they even tried to use in the report to try and make Israel look not that bad. Or not, yeah, basically that's what it is. Window. Booyah. All right, go ahead, man. Go ahead, StreamYard. Okay, so let me zoom in for y'all. Where the hell is my Zoom at? See, this is why I like using. Oh, there we go. So I want to show y'all some of the stuff, like what I mean by like they try to actually not necessarily justify what Israel is doing, but like try to both sides it. First of all, also is this part. It said the commission faced challenges in its investigation in relation to Gaza. The commission's ability to reach out to victims and witnesses were limited due to the continuing fighting on the ground and major communication disruptions. In relation to Israel, Israeli officials repeatedly publicly announced Israel's refusal to cooperate with the commission's investigation. So Israel was blocking them, but they kind of like try to make, oh, you know, we had some problems with. Yeah, I would gather that. That makes sense that you would have some trouble gathering information. But then, but honestly, it was Israel. They literally just didn't want to cooperate with us. The same Israel, like I said in the hotspot video, y'all was literally putting out, bringing flying Elon out first class, private jet. Come look at this. What Hamas did, man. Come look at the reason that we're committing this genocide so that you can go back and tell everybody on X that they can't talk bad about us. Right? They brought Jerry Seinfeld out there. They were bringing everybody they could out, showing them this video of what happened, which was super weird. The compilation video that no one has ever seen, but everybody swears is real. So they talk about where they got this information from. The commission conducted remote interviews with victims and witnesses and consulted multiple sources of information and conducted a mission in Turkey and Egypt from 28 February to March 8, 2024, to gather firsthand accounts from survivors and witnesses. It met with more than 70 victims and witnesses, and more than 2/3 of them women. So there is a difference in the information that is presented to frame Hamas, what they do at, like, the claims about Hamas here. Like, I would never say like during wartime that acts of violence or sexual violence or any violence that should be deemed unnecessary don't happen. That's going to happen in an attack. It's just it's a reality. I'm not one of those people who be like, no, that's crazy. They would never do anything like that. That's not true. There's always a bad egg, at least one or two. There's always somebody. Now it's less likely because of the religious aspect of it, and it's less likely because of the first-hand accounts we've gotten from hostages that have been released, right? However, I would never discount the possibility that there were some Hamas militants taking advantage of the situation and personalizing it instead of going there to complete the mission, right? So I just want to be clear about that. But the idea that it was systemic, that it was a directive given by Hamas leadership, no, it's not. And the way that they try to like, oh man, well, you know, Hamas is bad too, it don't even make sense because of the way they got the information. They even kind of snitch on themselves. You know, it says, so we start out this paragraph with according to Israeli sources, guys, super reliable. According to Israeli sources, more than 1,200 persons were killed directly by members of various Palestinian armed groups and others in rockets and mortars launched from the Gaza Strip. Guys, we already know that information is false because, ironically, according to Israeli sources, they said that they began shelling homes. The Israeli military began shelling homes knowing that there were innocent people, Israelis, in those homes because they were afraid that Hamas had taken control of those areas. We know that the Black Hawks started raining fire on their own people in an attempt to get Hamas soldiers. And we also know about the Hannibal Directive. So there's that. Right? So like, according to Israeli sources, more than 1,200 people were killed by Palestinian groups. No. According to Israeli sources, they killed their own people. But this, because you got to remember who pays the UN, right? They got to do their job. Hey, man, so look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try. We're going to try to make them, we got to point some kind of finger at Hamas, right? But like, Israeli sources debunk their Israeli source off rip. So they try to even make it like they trying to help Israel out here. Okay? So it says the attack, it talks about the attack, and then where's the part? Oh, so okay, here it goes. So it says that Hamas military wing, other Palestinian armed groups, and civilians attacked distinct civilian targets in at least 24 localities, as well as public spaces and outdoor festivals. In these sites, militants systematically moved from house to house, setting homes on fire, shooting into private and public shelters, and removing people from hiding places, killing, injuring, abducting civilians to Gaza. The commission investigated 6 distinct attacks in Be'eri, and 8 attacks in Nir Oz, each involving multiple victims, largely from the same families. In Be'eri, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, 105 civilians were killed, 63 men, 42 women, by members of the military wings of Hamas, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, as well as by civilians from Gaza. In addition, 31 civilians, 13 men, 18 women were abducted to the Gaza Strip. Attackers entered the kibbutz and shot at residents, cars, pets, houses, killing and injuring, setting houses on fire, and abducting people to Gaza. In one case, a 9-month-old baby girl was shot and killed while hiding with her mother in their safe room in Be'eri. In another case, at least 4. So here's the problem with that. We already, from what we actually know, like fact-based, the only infant that we know, unless something has changed, that was killed and confirmed dead, was actually killed by Israel. That's another, so that it sounds like this is hearsay, is effectively what I'm saying. And they say, Israeli sources and eyewitnesses. Well, of course the eyewitnesses are going to say whatever. They're going to say what's going to make Israel look like the victim, right? Isn't that what Israel does? I'm not saying that it was a traumatic experience on top of that. It's not like they liked Palestinians before that point. So, but this isn't being described as a military operation. And I don't really care if they want to frame it as a terrorist attack. No, it wasn't. This was a well executed, honestly, military operation. That's the best part about it. Innocent people die, and it's unfortunate, but because they were trying to bring hostages to get their hostages back. And Israel had every opportunity to do hostage exchanges in the past, and have been refusing to, because they believe that it's better to kill their own hostages. I'm talking about before October 7th. They had opportunities to do hostage exchanges and have refused to, because they believe in killing Israeli hostages before giving back a Palestinian to get back an Israeli hostage. They prefer that, right? So it was a well-executed military operation, but they're trying to act like it's already being framed as if it's terrorist attack. In Nir Oz, 46 civilians were killed by members of the military wings of Hamas and PIJ in Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, the armed wing of Palestinian Mujahideen movement, the armed wing of the Popular Resistance Committees, Palestinian civilians who also participated in these killings. 72 residents of the kibbutz, 37 men and 35 women were abducted to Gaza. In one case, 79-year-old woman and her 12-year-old autistic granddaughter from Nir Oz were killed close to the perimeter fence with Gaza, allegedly because they were slowing down the retreat of their captors. Once again, we don't really know if that's true because they're already talking about allegedly. And we don't know because that just sounds like, once again, that's hearsay from Israeli witnesses who, Israel's been touching everybody who's been talking to the commission, and the commission actively said that they're doing everything to not cooperate with them. So if you're roadblocking them, we know if Israel's roadblocking them, we also know that they were probably roadblocking them to buy themselves time to talk to every witness, because we know that Israel has been sitting down witnesses and hostages and victims during, even the ones that survived during October 7th. Like they literally were media training them and coaching them. This is like this is a fact. So, but I'm reading all this just to illustrate to you all, like, for those who might think like, oh man, this report just only focused on Israel. No, they actually tried to kind of like both sides of this. They tried to make what Hamas did look like a terrorist attack, and that Israel's disproportionate response to a terrorist attack is the problem. But it's like, no, that was a military operation. It was. If Palestine was allowed to genuinely be considered a country, Hamas in this particular case would be considered, and the other battalions or brigades, if you will, would be considered the military of Palestine, and they would be resisting an occupying force. That would be considered a military operation in any other situation. It says many Israeli families suffered a multi-generational impact, with several members either killed or abducted to Gaza. In one case, in Be'eri, a 48-year-old woman and her 2 teenage daughters were killed while the father was abducted to Gaza. In Nero, a family of 5 was hidden in their safe room when the militants broke into the room, shot and killed both parents, set fire to the home, which resulted in, like, when I hear you understand how specific those details are, guys? Who told y'all that? That is a very traumatic experience, and someone sat down and started doing a transcript of everything that was taking place and somehow managed to be the one person in that house, in that very specific situation, that escaped and was able to confirm this story to this commission. Come on, guys. Like, that's why I'm like, there's a difference between this, and I'm trying to draw the distinction here, because there's a difference between the information of that's basically effectively hearsay that they're talking about when trying to implicate Hamas in these war crimes, versus what they say about Israel. So it talks about the Nova Festival, 3,000 young people at the Nova Music Festival who shouldn't have been there. In Re'im, 364 attendees, including 215 men and 136 women, were killed by members of the military wing of Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups, while 40 others were abducted to Gaza. Victims were killed at the side of the music festival while attempting to hide under the festival stage, in the portable public toilets, inside parked cars, and in garbage containers. In one case, a man hid in a parked silver car when Hamas militants shot him to death. Members of those killed were shot while running through a field east of the Nova site, trying to escape, while others were killed while hiding in stationary cars and in public shelters along Road 232, where they sought refuge. Survivors in shelters reported lying for hours under piles of bodies, waiting for first responders to arrive. So I just want to be clear. This is all from the perspective of Israelis that they're reporting this. It gotta be, because we know for damn sure this video that everybody's seen but nobody's seen, right? The one that had Robbie cussing out Bree, the one that people swear that the same video that showed the beheaded babies, remember? That we're all waiting to be released still. It couldn't have been from that video. So this is all hearsay from the perspective of those who were there. And I'm not saying no civilians got killed. That's not what I'm saying. But it's a military operation. It was a full-scale military operation in an area that was large, that was heavily dominated and occupied by not the kibbutz, but like the area that they went to had a bunch of ISF, like Israeli soldiers. So yeah, but the perspective is like, it's all hearsay shit. It's like people died during a military operation. They're like, you could have limited it to that. However, there's a part here where here it goes. This is the part where I take issue because they perpetuate, this report attempts to perpetuate the lie that has already been debunked. Now, I think it's, once again, it's probably important to mention once again, because I think that this is like, they just did the report in the order that they got the information in. This stopped at December 31st. But since December, all that shit has been debunked, even by Israeli sources. They don't have the forensic evidence to prove anything about sexual assault, sexual violence, systemic violence, et cetera, et cetera. Right? The commission found evidence of mistreatment of civilians and ISF members in several locations. I don't know how you mistreat soldiers, occupying soldiers, but okay. And significant evidence, once again, I don't know what the evidence would be, but that's what they're claiming. Significant evidence on the desecration of corpses, including sexualized desecration, decapitations, which I'm sure that part happened, to be honest. Lacerations, burning, severing of body parts, and undressing. A commission estimates that some 130 older persons were killed in the attack. In one incident at a bus stop in Sderot, militants shot and killed 13 civilians. 8 of them were over the age of 65. At least 68 foreign nationals were killed. Then they say killing soldiers considered orgy de combat and sexual gender-based violence. So I'm not gonna go over that part. The commission found that the commission found that 7 female soldiers were taken to Gaza as hostages and viewed footage showing that they had been subjected to physical and verbal abuse. Well, they were soldiers, so I believe that. That's part of the job. That's what happens when you sign up. 4 female bodies found at Nahal Oz outpost were partially or completely undressed. 2 of which were isolated in separate rooms, showing signs of physical abuse and sexual violence. Now, they don't say that they say that they have footage of physical verbal abuse, but then they always go to the next party. I'm like, they say, 4 bodies were found, and it shows signs of physical, like the tunnels were found. You get what I'm saying? Like I believe that there might have been some physical abuse and killing of soldiers in a war, in a military operation. But then they go to the sexual part, and there's not any evidence of that. They just say it as if it's a fact. And that is what's problematic for me, because you can't really say that and perpetuate a stereotype that's being used in the mainstream in a very stereotypical, like they're stereotyping and vilifying and dehumanizing and animalizing specifically the Palestinian people. And that is all that is what a lot of the mainstream will pull out of this report. So that part is problematic to me. Look, the commission found indications that members of the military wing of Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups committed gender-based violence in several locations in southern Israel on October 7th. And it goes on to say that these were not isolated incidents, but perpetrated in similar ways in several locations and by multiple Palestinian perpetrators. The acts documented by the commission reflected clear abuse of power by male perpetrators and a disregard for the special considerations and protections of women's integrity and autonomy granted by international law. Okay, so effectively what they're trying to claim, this is what I'm saying. That's why I had to go over. I know it sounds like I'm like damn, you're reading a bunch of shit about the Hamas. Yeah, but it's the reason for that. Because this is what the mainstream is going to ride with. This is what the Debbie Wasserman Schultz of the world are going to ride with. That is a massive claim, guys. They're trying to claim Palestinians en masse. They said they weren't isolated, perpetrated in similar ways, saying it was like not conspiratorial, but almost like it was a mandate or an agreed upon decision by groups, and that there were multiple Palestinian perpetrators. The acts documented by the commission reflect a clear abuse of power by male perpetrators and disregard for special considerations for women's integrity and autonomy by international law. If you're going to say something like that, you're going to have to, in my opinion, the report, the commission now has to explain the information that has actually already been debunked by Israeli sources. Because what they are claiming has no grounds. There's no evidence that supports this. And as we read this part, you'll understand why it's even more frustrating. Because you're going to be like, where the hell did y'all get this evidence from? It says that Hamas military wing rejected all accusations that its forces committed sexual violence against Israeli women. And once again, I will not say that there was zero acts of sexual violence committed. I won't say that. But I won't pretend like it was a widespread thing either, because there's not been any evidence suggesting such. And also it's Israel, so every accusation is a confession. Anyway, however, the commission documented cases indicative of sexual violence perpetrated against women and men in and around the Nova Festival site. So this is important. First of all, they didn't say that, they say documented cases indicative of sexual violence. Not, we have forensic evidential proof that sexual violence was committed. That's not what they said. We documented cases indicative of sexual violence around the Nova Festival site, as well as the outposts and military outposts the Nahal military outposts and several kibbutz. It collected and preserved digital evidence. You know what they're talking about when they say digital evidence, y'all? You're talking about pictures from the internet. That's what they're talking about when they say digital evidence. Including images of victims' bodies displaying indications of sexual violence. I don't know what that means. I'm genuinely curious. What do y'all think that means? We got pictures from the internet of indications of sexual violence. You can't make a claim like that and not be specific if you're going to accuse a military arm of committing mass sexual assault, because you know that it will be used. You're giving ammo to Netanyahu. You're giving ammo to Israel and its allies. You're giving ammo to these people. This is a pattern corroborated by independent testimony from witnesses. So you telling me that the same people that spread the lies about the beheaded babies, the same people that spread the lie about the sexual violence, hell, the same people who spread lies about how the hostages were being treated. The people who spread the lies about 1,200 people being killed by Hamas that day. The same people who killed their own because they were so terrified about Hamas, they decided to start launching mortars into the homes of innocent people. They're the ones who are corroborating the mass sexual assault story that they themselves have been spreading since the beginning. It says, reliable witness accounts obtained by the commission describe bodies that had been undressed in some incidents with exposed genitals. The commission received reports and verified digital evidence, once again, photos, concerning the restraining of women, including hands and sometimes feet of women being bound. Yeah, that was being kidnapped. That happened. We do know that. Often behind the victims' backs. Yep, that's how people unfortunately get bound prior to their abduction or killing. Yeah, that happens, unfortunately. Additionally, I'm just being real, like that happens. Like, yeah, there were people being kidnapped and hauled off and being killed. Like that happened. That part definitely happened. So the commission made assessments based on the position of the body, whatever that means, For example, images displaying legs spread or bent over in signs of struggle or violence on the body, which there would be signs of struggle and violence in damn near every single case because it was a military operation and people were being kidnapped and killed. Stab wounds, burns, lacerations, and abrasions. Okay. This is where it gets so I need y'all to understand something. I don't like body shame and clothes shame. Like when people go to raves and festivals and dance and that type of stuff, like I don't know if y'all know, they don't wear a lot of clothes. I don't know how else to say it. They don't wear clothes. It is the women at these raves, and I'm just saying as a person who's been to a few of them, they are damn near naked. And maybe like something that would be considered like some underwear, like a light little bathing suit bottom, a skirt with no drawers on, some fishnets, and they let it be. Some girls just literally just be wearing pasties, just some stars on their nipples, and in a bathing suit bottom, and that's it. People and Israelis especially are known, like they're just known for dressing, I guess what would be considered promiscuously at these raves because they just love raves. They're just well known for that. So I don't know if maybe this is just being too logical or maybe I'm just being too apathetic. I don't know. Y'all can tell me. But wouldn't it make sense that a bunch of people who just got killed, unfortunately, if they're innocent, at a rave would be naked? When women who go to raves are generally known for being almost naked? You get what you understand what I'm saying, y'all? Like they went through all of this to try and make Israel. They're not trying to justify. I'm not saying that they're justifying what Israel did, but it's like they're trying so hard to make it seem like they're being impartial, but they're not realizing that this actually can become damaging to the overall credibility of the report because it looks like you're just talking to talk. Like we're just trying our hardest not to piss Israel off. We have to make it look like we're considering both sides, even if the what we're purporting and what we're asserting is flimsy. The evidence is flimsy at best, and non-existent, or in this particular case, has already been debunked at worst. Israel's own forensics has debunked this shit. But you're making it seem as if you're both siding it to try and appear objective and unbiased, but it's not. In my opinion, it actually does damage to the credibility of your report. The reason, now, like as far as PR is concerned, now the reason why it doesn't really, when you go, and we'll go down more into the report, because when you look at how everything that Israel has done and how they know that Israel is guilty of, it's like firsthand accounts, eyewitnesses, like not eyewitnesses, excuse me, firsthand accounts from Israelis, the exact words that they use at the moment, the names of the officials who said what they said, the operations that they committed, like it's very specific shit with corroborative evidence, and stuff that a lot of us are already privy to. Like it's shit that they've already starving the kids, starving people, shooting the Israelis that were hostages because they thought that they were Palestinian. Like it's the stuff that we already know happened, but with more corroborative evidence. So it doesn't really discredit what they say as far as Israel participating in extermination of the Palestinian people. But from a bird's eye view, the average person who is looking for a reason to not criticize or to defend even Israel's actions, or specifically to try to once again dehumanize or animalize Hamas and say like, yeah, that's why we're doing this. Like to that average person, they're going to read this and they're going to stop. Why would you even start with this at the top of the report? Why would you start with the information that you have the least amount of evidence to back? Why would you start with the narrative that has been debunked? Y'all understand what I'm saying, guys? Like, y'all could have put this. You could, in my opinion, I'm not a commissions reporter, but I've written reports before. You don't start a report of this magnitude with the flimsiest accounts of the situation, the flimsiest accusations, with the least amount of corroborative evidence and proof, unless there's a specific intention behind it, which is we have to at least look like we're being we have to look like we're being impartial. Like, but the evidence in and of itself is impartial if you just look at what Israel's done. Right? You don't look impartial because you're still claiming the 1200 number that's already been debunked. That's been debunked by Israel's own sources again. You don't mention the Black Hawks. You don't mention how Israel fired into its own, like they admitted, their military admitted they killed their own people out of fear that Hamas had taken over certain kibbutzes. You get what I'm saying? And this is what makes it worse, y'all. The commission has reviewed testimonies obtained by journalists. What? Okay. And the Israeli police concerning rape. Oh. But has not been able to independently verify such allegations due to lack of access to victims, witnesses, and crime sites, and the obstruction of its investigations by the Israeli authorities. The commission was unable to review the unedited version of the testimonies. For the same reasons, the commission was also unable to verify reports of sexualized torture and genital mutilation. Additionally, the commission found some specific allegations to be false, inaccurate, or contradictory with other evidence or statements and discounted these from the assessment. So, ladies and gentlemen, they literally just told y'all, yeah, we were lied to. We couldn't even verify most of the allegations. They told y'all. We're like testimonies by journalists couldn't like. Are you kidding me? So basically, they literally said, and the Israeli police concerning rape, but not able to independently verify such allegations. So you're telling me that y'all just went through all of that. They went through all of that to tell us, yeah, actually, but the mass rape shit, we don't really have any evidence of it. But we painted this picture at the top of this report as if the mass rape theory was true, but we actually we don't really have any evidence of it. That's the conclusion. I know we painted the picture that we have evidence of it, and that's what it looked like we were going to conclude. Like, why would you start with that? Because not every journalist is going to be like me. They're not going to review the report to get to the nitty gritty and to get to the evidence and do the comparative analysis of the information we have now versus the information we had before and verify. Like, that's not what everybody's going to do. Thank God there are some journalists that do that. But the people who are going to use this, they're going to point at this UN report and they're going to say, we know because of this UN report, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Hamas did do this, and this. You get what I'm saying? So now let's get to the actual problems. Why the UN concluded that Israel's participating in extermination. Let me read these super chats real quick. Netanyahu doesn't care about rescuing the hostages. It's only about it's not only the Hannibal directive. They supported his political opposition. Oh, that's new. I had no idea about that. You just taught me something new. Actually, you make a good point about Netanyahu. His freedom is at stake. Exactly that. Katie Halper's producer Brad Bloom made a DEI Barbie doll for Brianna. Should Brie lean into it and sell DEI Barbies in the merch store? I don't know about that, man. I don't know. That's kind of I'm kind of up and down about how I feel about it. If she, I mean, maybe it was lighthearted and she thought it was funny, like it's cool, but I don't like that because it's just there's already not a lot of, we've already had this conversation, not a lot of black women in this space, right? Especially with that level of notoriety. It's like Brie, and then like the very next level down is Sabby. And a lot of the notoriety that Sabby got is because Brie helped uplift her. So I don't believe in this particular case that it would be actually productive, if you will, for her to engage in a trope, because it takes away from the fact that the reality is that, hell, if there was a DEI initiative that was actually positively affecting the outcome of representation for black women in this particular space, maybe we would start seeing some fucking more. But that doesn't happen, right? And it's ridiculous, actually, that not the DI part, because there's plenty of qualified black women who end up like leaving the space eventually, or sticking to more academic or going to writing instead, because the Margaret Kimberleys of the world, for example, they don't always get the accolades and the opportunities to be presenters that Brie was fortunate enough to get. But like Brie was overqualified for her position at that point. Like Crystal and like Sagar, for example, don't have anywhere near the credentials that Brie has. Brie's already been a lawyer. Brie's been a presenter. Brie's been a journalist, like a genuine journalist. She was a writer. She's been a press secretary for a presidential campaign, arguably one of the most popular presidential campaigns in history. Like she was overqualified for her job. And that's what it takes to get there. And that's why I just don't believe it would be productive to even just entertain that idea in this case. I understand the joke. Like I get it. It's like, it's lighthearted. I get it. It's supposed to be ironic because like obviously she isn't a DEI hire, but it's supposed to make fun of the Zionists that were calling her that. But like, I just don't think in this particular case it would be productive to play into that trope, because there is a problem in this space. And now there's like one less Black independent voice representing leftists when there already aren't that many to begin with. Let me get back to this. So yeah, that shit crazy. We're not going to read all this. I'm going to hit the hot points. It says here, by May 2024, fatalities in the Gaza Strip were estimated to have exceeded 34,800. Of them, 24,682, including 7,356 children and 5,419 women, were identified as of 30 April. So this is what I'm saying, guys. This is they can say at the bare minimum, we know that this number is confirmed because there are people who have claimed their identity. They're like, we know that this identity was confirmed. So that's not what we got about the claims from Israeli witnesses. Nobody talks about the confirmation of these people. They're just like, yeah, man, somebody somewhere was da-da-da-da. We know like these deaths, these numbers, they use this number as a conservative estimate because these are the numbers that they can at least verify as have an identity claimed by a family member, so that if it does get challenged in public discourse, they can bring that up. Okay. The number of injured was estimated at 77,908. Disaggregated data were only available for 53,019, including 12,332 children and 13,996 women. These numbers are likely higher, with thousands of persons still missing, many of them now dead under rubble. Air and artillery strikes account for the majority of the casualties since October 7th. So they're literally telling you, yeah, these numbers are wrong. That is how bad the situation is. People are still stuck under rubble. So we can't even, and nobody can get to them, because every time somebody tries to return home, anytime an organization tries to go in and help, they start bombing the area and kill them too. Extermination. ISF has used a variety of explosive weapons with wide area effect in its attacks, delivered through airstrikes, tank, artillery fire, and shelling by naval forces. Ground operations, which started on 27 October, proceeded from north to south. These also served to segment the Gaza Strip strategically, cutting the northern half from the south with the establishment of a road in the middle. Most of the population that was evacuated southward has not been permitted to return. It talks about the ceasefire, which, by the way, I remember the ceasefire. And if you all remember, Israel violated it like literally the next day. And it was they did it with impunity, as usual. Attacks on civilians and civilian objects. During the first weeks of the military campaign, ISF primarily used airstrikes targeting high-rise buildings and other civilian objects in the Al Rimmel neighborhood, Khan Yunis in Gaza, Jabalia and Al-Shati refugee camps, and other locations, causing thousands of casualties, wreaking devastation, and raising entire residential blocks in the neighborhoods to rubble in near constant heavy bombardments. Which is crazy, because you know what they say? They what were they saying? Oh, Hamas is hiding in the tunnels. So why the hell were you bombing high-rise buildings? This part is very significant. Crucial differences from previous hostilities should be noted, including that Israel has forcibly displaced at least 1.7 million Palestinians, as well as a massive scale of fatalities and destruction. I need y'all to understand something. There are only 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. That means almost all of them have been displaced, and almost all of them, as they said earlier in the report, aren't able to return back home and probably won't be able to. That is a genocide. That's forced migration. And once again, given what we know right now, seems to be the goal, right? Hostilities between 2005 and 2023 resulted in less than 1/10 of the fatalities since the 7th of October. The commission has also observed an increased trend in the number of fatalities of women and children. Believe women, right? Somebody should call up the girl that tried to attack Bree. Believe women. Oh, you can't believe these women because they're fucking dead. They're dead. These children and women are dead. So it's like, what? You want to believe women when it's your sister who's alive and breathing and is a hostage, but forget women whenever they're being literally disproportionately killed. Women and children literally being disproportionately killed as compared to other conflicts between Israel and Palestine. But you know, they're Muslim, they're Arab, they're Palestinian. Not even all Muslim, but they're at least Arab and Palestinian, and so I guess it doesn't matter, right? But yeah, the fatalities of women and children compared with previous hostilities, and assesses that this is associated with ISF's air bombardment campaign and its frequent use of explosive weapons with a wide area impact in populated districts. This disproportionate effect was identified previously by the 2014 Gaza Commission of Inquiry, and thus was foreseen but not prevented. In other words, Israel knew that this would happen because it's already happened before. Because this inquiry, this commission, I already talked to them about this, and they chose to ignore it. And this is interesting too. The commission documented ISF statements indicative of a change in targeting approach. In one example, on October 10th, the ISF spokesperson said, "This is the situation now. We need to use a different language and different terminology. Our attacks in Gaza is not like the rounds and the number of targets in the past. The logic is different. In every place, in every space where there is an inkling of intelligence, we attack." So they even changed their language to be more genocidal. This isn't hearsay, guys. This is what I'm talking about. This isn't hearsay. This is a direct quote from an official, and then we saw them carry out the attacks to that effect. Why didn't they start out with this at the top of the report? But that's neither here nor there. In another example, Israel's defense minister Yoav Gallant said, "Gaza will never return to be what it is, or what it was, excuse me. I have released all restraints. We use everything." I thought this was about Hamas. So is it about Hamas or was it about Gaza? Y'all know the answer to that, but y'all get my point, right? Given information suggesting relatively low numbers of Hamas militants in proportion to the wider civilian population, and given Israel's repeated assertion that militants are embedded within the civilian population, the commission considers these statements indicate that the Israeli government has given ISF blanket authorization to target civilian locations widely and indiscriminately in the Gaza Strip. The Israeli bombardment strategy also appears consistent with the application of the so-called doctrine. The commission investigated several large-scale attacks on civilian targets in the Gaza Strip, which are indicative of the use of this doctrine, and documented tens of other attacks, my apologies, including on aid organizations, convoys, and refugee sites. In many of these cases, the commission could not identify military targets as the focus of the attack. That's crazy, y'all. I'm gonna read that again. In many of these cases, the commission could not even identify military targets as a focus of the attacks against aid organizations, convoys, and refugee sites. In other words, they were specifically targeting civilians, and there was no evidence that showed up that suggested otherwise. Even when military targets were allegedly present, attacks lacked distinction, proportionality, and precautions, resulting in thousands killed and injured and widespread destruction of entire neighborhoods, including Jabalia, Al-Ramal, Al-Yarmouk, and Al-Maghazi. Additionally, they found out that the ISF ground forces killed civilians who posed no threat, including those holding white flags, which we know. We know about the total siege, the siege warfare. Hold on, I gotta find something specific now. Oops. Oh, there we go. This is the part that really kind of like drives the nail home as far as the extermination concept. The occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, between October 7th and 31st of December 2023, 308 Palestinians, including 80 boys, were killed in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, 300 of them by Israeli forces and 8 by settlers. Why were 308 people killed in the West Bank since October 7th? That sounds like a military operation. But you know what? That's all right. We won't continue. The fatalities in the West Bank within this period exceeded, this is important to remember, the fatalities in the West Bank within this period from October 7th to December 31st, 2023, exceeded any annual fatality toll since the OCHA began collecting data on casualties in 2005. From October 7th to April 30th, 2024, 457 Palestinians, including 112 boys, have been killed by Israeli forces and 10 by settlers, including 2 boys across the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. The commission observed an increase in the large-scale militarized search and arrest operations in Tulkarem, Nablus, and Jenin in the West Bank. The commission identified a surge of settler attacks on Palestinian communities immediately after October 7th. Several developments may have contributed to this, including enlisting thousands of settlers, including enlisting thousands of settlers in the ISF, reserve duty, arming and mobilizing settlers. You heard that. Arming and mobilizing settlers in the West Bank for regular military service in specialized battalions based in the West Bank, establishing and arming additional quasi-military militias in settlements, and easing gun license registration regulations by Minister of National Security. The Human Rights Council has mandated the commission to investigate settler violence in the ops and reported by June 2025. That's way too late. So, in this, by the way, so before we get to that part, are y'all hearing what's happening? They just said there have been 500 total, roughly 500 total people killed in the West Bank. The numbers, the rate at which Palestinians in the West Bank are being killed dramatically increased from October 7th to present day. In other words, they used October 7th to justify killing Palestinians in the West Bank. The West Bank, over here, that has nothing to do with Hamas. Hamas does not operate in the West Bank. There are no hostages in the West Bank, I said. Yeah, I do understand that. They called up reservists, put them in the West Bank, militarized them, gave them guns, then loosened gun laws, and 500 Palestinians are killed since October 7th, which means the long and short of that is they use October 7th to justify slaughtering Palestinians in an area that had nothing to do with October 7th. That is why they were very clear when they said this is an extermination. That is what they meant. That is why they because they could have just said, it's a genocide, because they've been saying that. That's not like that's not new. No, they were like, nah, bro, it's a genocide or it's extermination. That's why, because it is. You can't. It's extermination of the Palestinian people. This isn't a genocide being carried out in Gaza, or it's not just that. Rather, it's an extermination of the Palestinian people, and they're literally using October 7th to justify everything they're doing, including shit that has nothing to do with October 7th. And once again, I'm going to continue to ask, why not put this at the top of the damn report, guys? Why didn't they put this up there? Doesn't make any damn sense. Sexual violence. The commission documented many incidents in which the ISF systematically, so this is the difference. Randomized, maybe hearsay, systematically targeted. This is the difference between what Israel claimed, what witnesses allege, versus what we know. And plus, Israel has already, we literally just got word about the torture camp, but they were using dogs to rape Palestinian prisoners. Okay. And that, or metal rods with electricity to rape. They're sexual deviants, projection. Every accusation is a confession. They are the sexual deviants they try to claim Palestinians are. The sexually violent deviants that they try to claim Palestinians are. It said they subjected Palestinians to sexual, gender-based violence online and in person since October 7th, including through forced public nudity, which we all saw, forced public stripping, which we all saw, sexualized torture and abuse, and sexual humiliation and harassment. These incidents took place during ground operations in conjunction with evacuations and arrests. Based on testimonies and verified video footage and photographs, the commission finds that sexual violence has been perpetuated throughout the operation. During evacuation process, I don't know why this is so small. Prior to or during the arrest, at the civilian homes and shelters, and wow, why the hell is this so small? This has got to be no. This is crazy. This got to be, I don't know what that's about. During evacuation processes, prior to or during arrest at civilian homes and at a shelter for women and girls, sexual acts were carried out by force, including under threats, intimidation, and other form of duress, in inherently coercive circumstances due to the armed conflict in the presence of armed Israeli soldiers. The ISF forced public stripping and nudity in many locations and humiliating circumstances, including when victims were blindfolded, kneeling, or with their hands tied behind their back while in underwear, interrogated or subjected to verbal or physical abuse while fully or partially undressed, coerced to do physical movements while naked, and filmed or photographed by the ISF, which is crazy because they are actually bold about that. They brag about it. So that's didn't take the commission to figure that part out, unfortunately, because IDF, they're stupid and sadistic. Palestinians were also made to watch members of their family and community strip in public and walk completely or partially undressed while subjected to sexual harassment. Both male and female victims were subjected to sexual violence, but men and boys were targeted in particular ways. Only males were repeatedly filmed and photographed by soldiers while subjected to forced public stripping, nudity, and sexual torture and inhumane, cruel treatment. Palestinian women were also targeted and subjected to psychological violence and sexual harassment online, including shaming and doxing female detainees and drawing gender and sexualized graffiti, including at a women's shelter in Gaza that was directly targeted. Israeli soldiers also filmed themselves ransacking homes, including drawers filled with lingerie, which I'm sure y'all remember that video that went viral, to mock and humiliate Palestinian women, and they were referring to Arab women as sluts. The commission concludes, based on the circumstances and context of these acts, that gender-based violence directed at Palestinian women was intended to humiliate and degrade Palestinian population as a whole. Yes. I'm not that was like those are the major takeaways from the report. You can, matter of fact, I'll post the article because it's getting harder and harder to find, where you can actually download the report yourself and read the whole thing. And I strongly encourage you all to do so. I actually just posted it in the chat. Yeah. Every accusation is a confession. Every accusation is a confession. Every single accusation is a confession. And it's worse. I still, once again, I'm going to repeat it. It's going to annoy the hell out of me. I don't know why they did it. No, I do know why they did it. But it's annoying that you would put all that shit in the top of the report, knowing that it's not really like, y'all don't have any evidence to support it. Y'all even said it. It's hearsay. The mass rape thing, they didn't even notice they didn't put anything about babies. But the mass rape thing was like, that was hearsay. Y'all had no evidence of it. But y'all put all that stuff about sexual violence and and hearsay, and it was kind of like some witnesses that said they saw it, like at the top, to demonize and animalize Hamas and Palestinians in general. And y'all put this at the bottom? The stuff that you got proof for? The stuff that we have video evidence to corroborate? The stuff that Israel has bragged about doing? The stuff about the West Bank, that damn near should have been near the top, guys. Right? Wouldn't y'all agree? Don't you think the world should know that this place where there is no Hamas and there is no hostages, there are no hostages, there were 500 Palestinians that were killed. Y'all don't think that that's a big deal? Y'all don't think that's information that the world needs to know about so that we can start having that debate. Why are y'all there and why are y'all killing them? And what does that have to do with Hamas? We need explanations. So although I applaud the UN for sending this commission out, I applaud the commission for at least exposing the crimes. And I guess at least being honest that you didn't have any genuine evidence about the stuff you were saying about Hamas. But you exposed the crimes against humanity and the war crimes committed by Israel. I respect that. I don't respect the fact that y'all not gonna do anything about it because y'all don't have any teeth. But but this is more information that can be added to any ongoing or pending criminal cases, which we know that the Israeli government is currently being subjected to.